Well, that's what they want to do. Great. We're going to open up this new technology to non-BRICS members. However, it's not compatible with the pound, the dollar, or the euro. BRICS, and they are going to open this payment system up, which allows for payment in local currencies, which only strengthens one another's economies and their own system rather than converting to dollars, making the trade, going back from dollars to the other currency. You got 4 conversions back and forth, and all of this time, this new bridge platform settles in 7 seconds, not 3 to 5 days that SWIFT does. This new platform has a 98% reduction in fees. All of this stuff put into play, and then think about the size and scope of opening this up to non-BRICS nations is enormous. And all of a sudden, you have something that can very quickly challenge not only the settlement status of the dollar, but the reserve status, because what gold is doing in all of these vaults is not replacing the dollar, it's replacing what stands behind the dollar. It is a skeletal system, these vaults.
Except for the major Western currencies, dollar, euro, and pound, BRICS and its affiliated partners are now introducing a new gold-backed payment system to non-BRICS countries. The dollar may progressively lose its status as a global reserve and settlement currency as more non-Western nations embrace this arrangement. By utilizing gold to smooth out imbalances and stabilize a new multipolar monetary system, central banks in the BRICS countries may accelerate the de-dollarization process even further. The network of gold vaults that underpin this system marks the beginning of a new monetary architecture in which gold reclaims its position as a reliable financial anchor. Still, it does not replace the dollar itself. Instead, gold replaces the U.S. Treasury bonds that serve as its backbone. Andy Schectman is a well-known figure in the precious metals industry, serving as the president and CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals. He reveals that the BRICS alliance is rapidly gaining legitimacy and strategic strength, especially with recent moves to internationalize financial infrastructure. China is building a multi-jurisdictional gold hub network, anchored in Hong Kong and extending via BRICS and Belt and Road nations, to internationalize its currency, introduce gold-backed settlement infrastructure, and ultimately reshape the global financial order. China's yuan is now convertible to gold directly on the Shanghai exchange, bypassing the dollar. With organizations like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the Belt and Road Initiative covering over 70% of the world's population and more than half of global GDP, BRICS is building a credible alternative monetary system. With offshore storage and RMB pricing gaining traction, gold trading in HK, Singapore, and similar hubs may increase substantially. A decentralized reserve model, vaults across Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and beyond, could weaken the dominance of Western dollar-centric vaults. As more countries join the network, this may catalyze a gradual de-dollarization of the global gold trade, reinforcing the BRICS ambitions. The new BRICS-aligned gold settlement system avoids the pitfalls of centralized trust by using blockchain technology and distributing gold across multiple jurisdictions. This prevents any single country, such as the Bank of England withholding Venezuela's gold, from controlling or freezing assets. The Bank of England's continued withholding of Venezuela's gold highlights the legal and geopolitical power of Western sanctions. Even amid acute humanitarian needs, central banks are caught between enforcing diplomatic policy and addressing economic realities. Until UK courts clarify recognition issues or sanction frameworks evolve, Venezuela's access to its gold remains in limbo. As we dive into the video, remember to subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. We value your thoughts, so drop a comment below and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content.
The BRICS are more dangerous than ever, and dangerous might not be the right word, but I think they're becoming more legitimate than ever. The crux of what I was talking about, it centers around the development that we saw a couple weeks ago where the Shanghai Metals Exchange came out and said we are going to internationalize our exchange by a series of multi-jurisdictional hubs around the first one in which is under construction right now in Hong Kong, the next one in Saudi Arabia, and then a set of contracts has already been put in place to build these exchanges or these depositories all around the Belt Road, through Africa and through Asia, ultimately into South America. And you look at some of the other exchanges that just have come to rise, like in Singapore. We see the growing sentiment of not only the Shanghai Exchange, but the exchange in Dubai. We're going to have an exchange in Moscow that's going to gain prominence. You're going to have an exchange with the BRICS. The whole idea and their announcement that the yuan is now convertible into gold on the Shanghai Exchange using that moment exchange rate for yuan, not converting into dollars, but for yuan. In other words, the yuan is being internationalized, and they came out and said this. You can see the chess pieces are being put into place where they're going to internationalize yuan and trade it over their bridge platform, which they announced as well. 3 weeks ago, they made the announcement that the renminbi cross-border payment system, which is mBridge, has been integrated and already fully operational with 11 countries in Southeast Asia, the Asian countries, and 5 in the Middle East, which present time represents nearly 40% of global GDP. I think 38% was the exact number. So you got those countries. And then you have the BRICS, but then you have the Belt Road and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Each one of those two organizations alone account for, the SCO accounts for 50% of human population, 35% of global GDP. Now, there is some crossover in the Belt Road, which is 70% of human population and about 50% of global GDP. You can add in other organizations like the Asianic countries I mentioned, the Eurasian Economic Union, like Kazakhstan and Russia. There's crossover. All of these entities are closely aligned with the BRICS. They're not in the BRICS, but all closely aligned. And the premise of what I'm talking about is that, first and foremost, the mistake the people in the West make is they think in terms of seconds and days. You can see these are very strategic moves that are being made. Open a series of multi-jurisdictional branches of the Shanghai Metals Exchange, and others aren't directly correlated with Shanghai Metals Exchange, but they're all connected. And the premise is that every one of the countries where these exchanges are built will all deposit little bits of gold in all of the exchanges. So I put some gold in here, and everyone does that. So the gold is not held in one jurisdiction by one player. And that way, any imbalances, whether it be once a month or once a quarter, is settled in gold and will ultimately be in various jurisdictions. So the pieces are being put into place. Now, when you think about the Belt Road, when you think about Shanghai Cooperation, when you think about all of these groups, the Asianic countries, Middle Eastern countries that aren't in BRICS, it's substantial. And the one pushback that people like Daniela make is that they're not legitimate enough. They're a sideshow. They're not big enough. Sergei Lavrov, I think, really upped the ante when a couple weeks ago he came out and said, after it became evident that the primary thrust of Brazil, Brazil's holding it's in fact, it's today that the meetings are going on, yesterday and today, I believe, was that they want to develop a new payment system independent of SWIFT. That's what this is. But Lavrov came out and said, well, that's what they want to do. Great, we're going to open up this new technology to non-BRICS members. However, it's not compatible with the pound, the dollar, or the euro. So they're keeping the West out, but now put it in context of what I just said with the Belt Road, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Asianic countries. If they are all involved and closely aligned with the BRICS and the BRICS nations, but not BRICS, and they are going to open this payment system up, which allows for payment in local currencies, which only strengthens one another's economies and their own system, rather than converting to dollars, making the trade, going back from dollars to the other currency. You got 4 conversions back and forth, and all of this time. This new bridge platform settles in 7 seconds, not 3 to 5 days that SWIFT does. This new platform has a 98% reduction in fees. When you have the bridge settlement network, mBridge, it's instant auditing, it's instant settlement, and it's instantly verifiable transparently. Think of what Zoltan Pozsar said, transparency in commodities. This is a marriage between blockchain technology and commodities and gold. Having it held in multi-jurisdictional locations with every country spreading their gold amongst those jurisdictions is genius, because it does take the trust out of it, and it's verifiable, and it's transparent. And that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Having it held in one location, you end up making the wrong choice by partnering with the wrong side, and you get locked out of your assets. And that's Venezuela would make that choice. And it's not for us as the world reserve currency to determine that. and I always go back to Iraq. We're there 22 years later, and ask the people in the Middle East if it was justified destroying their country, toppling their regime, and didn't find the weapons that they said were there, and they're still there. So I'm not saying that America is holier than thou. I'm proud to be an American. I really am. I thank God every day for it. But the rest of the world would say, well, that's hypocritical, that they can do this. They can destroy a country, topple the regime, occupy 22 years later, and still go far away from, and that is that, yes, China may have a very significant role in all of this, but by putting the vaults all around the world in different countries with instant auditing on a blockchain network, you are in as trustful as you can possibly be in a system that isn't controlled by one player, even if one player is slightly more dominant in things than others. If all the gold was held in Shanghai and the Chinese control it, what does that mean? But you have it in 20 vaults around the world, and everyone puts gold in each one of the vaults. You now have something truly distributed that would keep that from happening.
Andy Schectman argues that the growing influence of BRICS is being dangerously underestimated, as even longtime U.S. allies, such as Mexico, are showing interest. President Donald Trump has threatened additional tariffs on any country that supports the anti-American policies of the BRICS group, a political and economic cooperation forum comprising 11 countries. Any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. There will be no exceptions to this policy, Trump said via Truth Social on Sunday night. The threat came after Trump announced that the long-awaited tariff deals and letters discussing those moves with other countries would be unveiled from noon ET on Monday, ahead of the July 9th deadline for the pause on his tariffs. He imposed a 25% tax on goods imported from South Korea and Japan, and established new tariff rates on a dozen other nations. Moreover, Andy reflects on how, despite the massive rise in asset prices, such as real estate, stocks, and bonds, resulting from 20 years of suppressed interest rates, precious metals, especially gold and silver, remained undervalued, possibly by design. While insiders are now selling equities and moving into commodities, retail investors are heavily buying stocks at record levels. With central banks and institutions making massive gold deliveries, the speaker views this as a clear signal that gold and silver hold real value in a distorted market. He trusts precious metals and short-term U.S. treasuries over any other asset at the moment, calling gold and silver more critical than ever. Now, let's dive into the interview.
I think what's happening with the BRICS nations is largely ignored, largely underestimated, and it is a catastrophic mistake. I truly do believe that. And, you got Mexico at the BRICS meeting, for goodness sake. You have countries that we've been aligned with forever that are tired of the way that we deal with the world. Right now, in my opinion, the one mistake President Trump has made is using the whip or the stick rather than the carrot. And I think it's a whole lot better to mend the fences that have been materially damaged over the last administration to find some commonality. Instead, it's if you don't, then this, and tariff, and you better. At the same time, Doge comes in, they point to all of this, the savings. Congress can't get their act together and ratify it, so they come up with $80 billion in savings, which is 38 hours of spending by the U.S. government. It's nothing. We want to raise the debt ceiling again.
$5 trillion.
Yes, and we're going to have at least a $2.5 trillion deficit. So we can't get our house in order in the midst of Doge and a drive publicly to do it.
A mandate, all that.
What does the future hold for your grandkids? Mm-hmm. Think about that. And I know I can see it just in your eyes when I say that. Like, you don't like it, but that's the truth. And I think that's the part people need to be able to look past today, look past tomorrow, and look into the inevitability of mathematics and the inevitability of the damage that we have done, I think, to our image. We were once a place that everyone wanted to be. Little boys and girls around the world wanted to wear Levi's jeans and listen to U.S. music and watch Hollywood movies and come here for a better life. And largely they still do. And I'm not saying we're not the best country in the world, but what I am saying is that we've damaged our reputation. And you have to ask yourself, has it been irreparably damaged to the point where we aren't trusted? And a system that is foundationally built upon trust is in trouble if the trust has been frayed to the degree that ours has. And even in shining a light upon our our fiscal irresponsibility, we still can't get our house in order. Well, that to me is kind of one of the last nails in the coffin. Like, yeah, it's time to move on, time to find a new system. And I'll say this publicly, and I don't say this very often. I said to you many times that, in fact, I don't know if I've said this at all, almost following the same playbook, only differently performed. What I mean by that is we're doing things to aggravate people, both fiscally, monetarily, politically, geopolitically. We're aggravating people around the world. We're using coercion rather than cooperation. We're spending more than we should. We're doing things that we shouldn't do to align the world in a cooperative manner. So are they trying to force this reset? Are they trying to get us to a point where the world abandons the dollar and abandons the treasury market? Is this something that they're attempting to do so they can reset the system, so they can point to those guys who made it happen and then become more nationalized, backed by gold, all the gold that's coming in, reset the system and do something different? It makes me feel like they are doing that they realize the inevitability. Let's onshore as much as we can in terms of commodities, and we have to break this chain. And when you hear Vice President Vance saying, being the world reserve currency isn't all that it's cut out to be, and you look and actually think about Triffin's dilemma, which says you will always have a trade imbalance, right? You will always have an eviscerated manufacturing base. How do you get away from that by being the world reserve currency? The answer is you probably don't. This far down the line, if you bring these critical manufacturing industries back, the cost goes to the moon, and the shelves become empty for a long time because we sent it over there for a reason, because of the cost. And now we're so far down the rabbit hole that how do you bring it back without creating a depression? I don't know how you do. And I think that's kind of the pickle that they realize they're in. If anything, I think they realize where we're at. That's why they're bringing back all the metals. That's why you're seeing the unorthodox things that are happening. But it almost makes me feel as like they realize that the end has to come. And sooner than later would probably be better to pull the Band-Aid off, reset the system, become a country that focuses on itself nationally rather than, and maybe we reset the system that way. I think the bottom line is that there is a reset and it's underway slowly. Right now, I think we're in the midst of a reset, the inverse relationship between it and real interest rates. But in all of that time in suppressing interest rates, the byproduct was distortions in asset prices, such as real estate, such as bonds, such as stocks. Everything went way up. Greatest bull market ever because we messed with Mother Nature. So when you try and think of where is there good value? Well, we just said the real estate market's not. The bond market, stock market, it's interesting. When you look at the stock market, you have the largest percentage of retail buyers, mom and pop, in the market ever before, including at the dot-com bubble. It's like 53, 54% of all stock trades is retail-based mom and pop. At the same time, since the beginning of the year, you're seeing every single week institutional sellers sell. Over $2 billion a week since the beginning of selling. The insiders, six sells for one buy. Look at the Buffetts, the Bezos, the Jamie Dimons. They're all selling. So the insiders have the lowest. They're selling out of equities and they're buying commodities because who's standing for delivery for $89 billion worth of gold since the beginning of the year? 89 billion with a B has come into COMEX. Who's standing for delivery for that? Moving to commodities and selling equities at the same time that the retail public has been shy to come into this market, but is at all-time records in equities. What could possibly go wrong? And I'm thinking to myself, where else can you put money where there's value? Well, gold and silver got beat up so bad when everything else went so high. I'll ask you, why did they beat up gold and silver? And to me, you say this and think, yeah, right, Andy, you own a gold company. Yeah, I do. And I don't know where else I would put my money. I can tell you right now, I have a managed account with Sprott out of my respect to Rick Rule when he was there for all of the years that he sent me his client's business. That was the least I could do. I don't even know. Eric Angeli is a great guy. I don't even know exactly what stocks he does, but I trust them. Gold and silver. I own a metals company. I have no debt. And the only other place that I put my money, period, is in 4-week duration or less U.S. Treasuries. I don't know where else to put it, and I'm not the poster child for Finance 101. So yes, Dunnigan, buying gold and silver to me has never been more important. Ever, never, never.
A significant change in the global financial order is represented by the events surrounding the gold-backed payment system spearheaded by the BRICS. The alliance is accelerating de-dollarization and creating a viable alternative to monetary systems centered on the United States by opening the system to non-BRICS countries while excluding the major major Western currencies. The impetus behind BRICS is accelerating as nations like Mexico express interest, and Western restrictions, such as the UK's withholding of Venezuela's gold, push others toward monetary autonomy. The undervaluation of precious metals may soon undergo a significant correction as insiders shift their focus from conventional assets to gold and silver. Is it possible that the decentralized gold-backed system of BRICS will eventually lead to a global revaluation of gold about fiat currencies? Should trade agreements aligned with BRICS drastically lower demand for U.S. treasuries, how may U.S. policymakers react? Feel free to share your feedback in the comments below. If you found this helpful video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to keep up with our latest updates.